YouTube, we're back. So obviously if you're watching this video, you'll realise that I'm no longer going to be competing at the Arnolds. After obviously you've seen the step-by-step prep and obviously putting all the work in, and me and Cal come to the decision, haven't we, that it's just not the right time to obviously display the physique. Like, I want to do my pro debut justice, and obviously it takes a lot to compete against the best guys in the world at the Arnolds, and in reality we just feel like we're not at that standard yet.
Yeah, I think there's been a couple of things that will go unannounced over the last couple of weeks in your life, which has made things a little bit more challenging. But I think the ultimate reality is the fact that when you came to the house last week, I think it was the pro debut is a special thing, and obviously the Arnold's is a special thing as well. But there are shows that will be in the near future, and those shows will wait. That debut will wait for us. It's just the most important factor for you is doing that pro debut justice. And I think we can both agree that right now with the package you're bringing, given the time that you had at the back end of last year and the start of this year, it is the Ryan that won the pro card, and it's not the Ryan that is going to step on the pro stage and go to the height that we know you can and are capable of in that.
If we coming in, we have to. It's no joke, the pro leagues. It's a big step up. There's one thing getting a pro card, and always my ethos has been create a pro physique. So I obtain a pro card, and then to jump straight into a pro debut, people could say, "Oh, yeah, you'll be in the mix. You could get top 3, or you still do yourself justice." But with my body like the way it is, and not coming in at 100% and being 85%, regardless, even if I won the show, I still probably wouldn't be happy displaying that physique because it's not 100% what we wanted to display, and the progress hasn't been made. So for me, it's just a matter of time and effort.
It's giving you that time that we know we need to fill in the gaps. I think obviously now we've figured out you have another £11 to play with, or £9 to play with. Obviously the lowest point we got in this prep was 182. And then obviously the cap that we know we can play to now is 192. So there's a £10 leeway there. Now, the look that we obviously saw last week, and maybe Lee can put some photos on for the last couple of check-ins, but realistically, there are a lot of gaps that need to be filled there for us to be as competitive as we know you can be. And I think everyone that's followed Ryan over the last couple of years as an amateur will know that front and side shots are very strong. As soon as you turn to the rear, that's where that £10 comes from.
And you need time to build that.
And we can't build that in a couple of months. Obviously, the Arnold's invite has come in. There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of hype around that. We've jumped into a prep potentially a little bit prematurely. And realistically, for us to get the best version of you here for that debut, that year, 12, 18 months was needed.
Everybody, for me, unless you're an absolute freak, and even freaks, like I was speaking to Mark Hector before, even he won his pro card and took 2 years to make sure that he was in the best place possible to compete with these guys, because these guys are the best in the world. And they've had time to develop and had time to progress. So for me, it's a very, very hard decision, because it'd be amazing to do the show, and I was looking forward to doing the show, but ultimately it's about bringing the best version of me and making sure that I look the best I possibly can, regardless of obviously the placing, isn't it?
Yeah. The longer term vision for you goes further than one single show. I think the pro debut is that's kind of like your statement season. That's your time to make an impact on that pro circuit, and unless we're at a point where. And I think, we've discussed that over the last 3 or 4 weeks as we brought your body down further and further. The more body fat we've pulled off, the more apparent it is that there is an underlying lack of tissue in the areas that we know we need. And if we look at the guys that are competing at that level now and doing well, they're complete athletes. And at the moment, 2 or 3 of those shots are very, very good, and they'll carry you through to an extent. But to compete on the level we want to compete on and to make the statement we want to make, all those shots have got to be on the same car. You know,
it's the pro leagues. It's the best of the best.
And you know, although you know, an Arnold's would have been exciting, it doesn't feel right going in knowing that this is not the finish you, if that makes sense. We both knew when you started the prep that it was going to be a little bit hit and miss in terms of the time to put the tissue on that we know we needed. Wasn't there. Now,
because we said we was going to have a year out. That's why we was having a year out, to put the tissue on. But if you get an Arnold's invite, you
jump on it.
Yeah, you jump on that because for me, I don't want to live in regret. I'd rather have done all the work and then decide, like I say, and we're not look good enough and decide at the last minute and then have no regrets, than actually just bail it off and think, oh, maybe I could have, would have, should have. So that's the reasoning why people might think, oh, well, you did all the work and then you didn't compete. Well, yeah, but still I can have some clarity and think to myself, well, at least I knew. Do you know what I mean? And we knew that there wasn't enough tissue there. And it is hard for me on the front of, like, obviously all the support from like the follow, like everyone on Instagram, my family and so on, but it's a decision that needs to be made, and it's for the best. It's not just me being, I don't want to prep, I'm sick of prep. It's so that I can be the best version of myself and we can get to that final form. We need time to do it, as we keep saying, it's all about time. So it's obviously, it's not, initially I felt bad because people obviously supported me so much and everyone's bought tickets and everybody's excited and sponsors are supporting me, but this is the best decision in the long run. Even if people can't see it now, for me, like, I know it is the best decision, and I know that it just lights the fire and gives me more like enthusiasm to try and be better in it.
Behind the scenes, the last couple of weeks, we've obviously started to change things a little bit in terms of pulling back fatigue, tapering, obviously, you know, supplementation going into that, shifting the body back into a better place once we kind of realised. Obviously, this, I don't know when this is going to be posted, but this is a little bit after that. I think the beauty of the position you're in now is the fact that because we haven't tried to force a response that wasn't necessarily going to be there.
Yeah.
You're now in a position where that turnaround from this diet can be very, very smooth and very quick. We're in a position where we don't have to do things to your body from a health perspective that we don't want to do, because that obviously hinders the ability for us to enter that off season effectively.
That's the thing as well. And what I would say for me is just make your own, like for me personally, it's just stand by your own decisions. Don't allow people to peer pressure you in or feel like the need to, you have to compete, you have to, it's all you at the end of the day. It's all about your own health, it's all about your own goals and about your vision, rather than just feeling like you have to compete because X, Y and Z, or and because you feel what other people may say, or people like will criticize you for it. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is yourself and your own goals. Personally, it's like for me, even like when people in the gym, they'll come up to me and obviously it's like embarrassing for me to say, oh, like I'm not doing the Arnolds because I'm not good enough. But for me, like, it's fuel. Like I love that because I'm like, watch, it's gonna happen. It's just literally hard work. So
obviously we know from where we got you down, you know, what will be now 2.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, there's about a 10 or 11 pound, if we were to pull the last bit off, a 10 or 11 pound change between where your weight would be and where the cap would be. So that's, you know, 10 or 11 pounds of stage weight is a considerable amount on someone your height as well, with your structure. Ooh. We're talking about, you know, it's limb length. If I gain 11 pounds,
you don't have to justify I'm small. So.
If I gain 11 pounds, you wouldn't notice a thing. If you put 11 pound in your frame, that's a big impact on the look in terms of musculature. And this is the thing, like these classic physique guys, you look at Ruff in the Olympia. If he puts 4 pounds or 3 pounds of stage weight on, that looks different. If you put 3 pounds on an open bodybuilder, you wouldn't blink an eyelid. Because it's how that physique flows. It's limb length. It's the size of muscle bellies. It's attachments. So for you, there's like a, let's say 10 to 12 pounds if we pull you down all the way. Now with more muscle also comes a change in condition as well, because we know that the areas that are not 100% there in terms of the look, in terms of how hard that look can be, it's because there is an apparent lack of tissue there. So we look at, when we spoke about last week, so hamstrings, glutes, erectors, lower back, and like just the lower portion of the lat as well. Getting that like hard detail through those areas.
It was almost having to take everything else away to get that on it.
So we continue to pull your body weight down, and now you're in a position where, right, we're now starting to see areas that were strengths start to gradually diminish. So we need to pull back in terms of fatigue. We need to add a little bit of food. But then you're playing a game of catch up in terms of time. Now, we put that 11 pounds to use, and we now go, right, over the next 12 to 18 months, you now transform that posterior chain, and you put the tissue required onto your glutes, you put the tissue required onto your hamstrings. I still think there's more to come on your quads as well. The big thing is your back, mid-back, traps, lats. And not only will those rear shots drastically change, but you could pull yourself down to the exact same level of condition you were previously, but it's just a different look. Because right now it's like the body fat will pull off, but there's nothing pushing through, if that makes sense. Even when you're full, like when we ran the 2 high days and we pulled output down, it's like there's just not enough there for that detail to pull through because the musculature isn't quite, isn't quite at the level we want it to. So, the thing that people have got to appreciate is the fact that this isn't a PCA regional. This isn't a PCA British Final. This isn't a Two Bros regional or a Two Bros British. This is, our way to the Olympia, to the biggest stage in the world, and that requires a certain level of it requires a certain level of look. It requires a certain level of excellence in that regard, and that process can't be rushed. And like, although when I told you last week, I was like, I just don't think it's there. That breaks my heart as a coach, because I'll take that personally. But we've also got to think this can be only used constructively. Yeah, of course, because this is the fire back in your belly to go, actually, hang on a minute. I've cruised the last 2 preps as an amateur, and now this is me knowing that.
Fuck you, Carl.
I need to level up. I need to level up.
No, it's true.
Because
it's true.
I'm now at a position where it's like you're taking an amateur physique and you're taking it to the pro level.
It's in my mind, it's almost like, okay, you how bad do you want it? Like, what are you made of? Oh, that was good. You was really good. Well done. Now that level up, and it takes like you say, double down on everything. On the sense of like programming, food, and what do you think? We just push.
So the big thing for you is obviously that 10-11 pounds of weight cap is weight that you can use, but also we don't want to distort that too much by just allowing weight to just skyrocket unnecessarily. So there's going to be a period of time now post diet where the body is very responsive, where
not post show,
post diet,
where we mini cut
technically is a recomp,
full recomp. Fuck's sake.
Where we've got a window of opportunity now where your body's super responsive. So that obviously means that we can pull a lot of the stuff that was the tools that we used in prep, shall we say, from an androgen perspective. This can be pulled down to allow for the realignment of blood work post-prep. Obviously, there was a lot of stress that accumulated for external reasons within the back end of that diet that obviously people may not know about, that obviously is now starting to diminish as well over time. So now we're back in a position where the body's going to be more responsive, and you as an individual probably going to be more responsive in terms of where you are, psychologically. The big apparent focus for us is obviously there is fatigue being carried into this phase because you have ultimately dieted for the last 12-13 weeks. So that takes some time to alleviate. Even when we trained earlier, like, we can tell that the body is kind of lingering in that phase, which it will do. So programming wise, obviously it's trying to not bite off more than you can chew at the start. So easing back in terms of volume and workload, spending a period of time now just accumulating back up to where we know you can be. The next 12 to 18 months heavily need to rely on posterior chain development. So that's going to reflect within the programming itself. Now, we briefly spoke earlier about how we can kind of devise that split at the start. But the underlying emphasis will be, filling in the gaps that we know on those rear shots. Because for you, and I think probably potentially from even the shots that you're stronger at, a little bit more medial delt as opposed to pec, because we know side chest, side tricep, front shots, that kind of clavicular division of your pec and your pec in general, even when you're mega flat, is just, it doesn't go. It doesn't go.
Just got massive tits, basically.
I think realistically, a prep at the back end of next year is definitely doable. And even if we think there are pro shows, leading into bloody September, October, November, like, there are back end of 2022 pro shows. As long as we were to have, a good solid in my head, a minimum 8 to 12 months.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much a year.
Yeah.
Of just treating that like a prep.
Yeah.
Because I see this quite a lot in terms of, I think it's probably materialised over when you're an amateur not having to put a load of muscle on. But I think in the past you've probably been a guy that is 110% on prep in terms of like effort, in terms of dialing in every single variable, smashing training. But then in the off season, it's like, I can relax a little bit now.
Yeah, I think it's like we were talking about it. There is no balance right now for the next 12 months.
Yeah.
There's that step where I used to be, I can have a bit of balance and I can go on holiday and I can travel and I can do this. But right now, you're a professional bodybuilder. Oh, hello.
He was up.
You're a professional bodybuilder. Be fucking professional.
Yeah.
Like you have that jump now. You need to. It's your job. Do you know what I mean? You don't get time off. You don't get to chill. You don't get to go to raves and party and so on.
It's that age saying like action reflect goals.
I remember. You said that to me.
I think for you now, it's like, and there are loads of people that do this, and guys that have crazy, guys and girls that have crazy potential, but they can only kind of turn that on in terms of discipline for half of the year.
I think it's because you see the changes so quickly, and there's a definitive goal, like a definitive time period, so it puts you under that pressure.
Yeah, I get that.
And you're like, oh, okay, well, I've got to, because again, everybody's watching. I have to do the show, and you think, well, 12 months is a long time, but to progress, it's not. Do you know what I mean? Like 6 to 8 months is not a long time to progress. Before you know it, a month's gone, isn't it? Like you say, you get that recovery phase out of the way, and then you're already a month down.
Yeah.
And then you do maybe a deload, and you're a month down again with 4 deloads.
I was loving life.
So it's just a matter of you just got to go all in on this, haven't we?
It's treating the next, let's say 12 months. It's treating the next 12 months with the same discipline and commitment you would a prep. Because I think for you now to stay dialed in and do the things that we need to do in terms of not only the training but also the consistency with the dog's on the table now. The consistency with the consistency with nutrition week in, week out. The ability to stay dialed in terms of recovery, the ability to stay dialed in with little things like we spoke about before in that couple of months we had, like fatigue management. It's like you're going to be a guy that in the past it will have either been kitchen sink at it or I'll DOS for a little bit.
Yeah.
And for you, it's like, it's either, I remember you said programming wise at the start, I was like, can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do this? Can I do that? Should I do rest pause now? Should I do this? Can I push my volume up? And now it's like, let's just systemize that for the entire off season. Because, if you were to stay as dialed in as you do in prep for the next 12 months, whilst you're eating a surplus and whilst you're training progressively and whilst you're doing what you need to do on a day-to-day basis, that's time that I don't think you've ever had before.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Ever. From the time that you've been competitive as a bodybuilder, as an athlete, that's never been there.
No.
And you managed to turn pro without that there.
So now it's...
But obviously, to do the justice that we need to do to your physique and what you're capable of, to take you from, winning a pro card to now qualifying for the Olympia, there's no other way around it than putting that effort in.
Yeah,
look at every single Open or Classic. It's probably easier to say Open because there's more UK Open bodybuilders, but every single one that's turned pro over, say, the last 4 or 5 years, every single one has taken time away to then come back better. And it's just a rite of passage that you go through.
Yeah, you have to, yeah.
And the excitement of prep and the likes on social media and all that hype that comes around it is great. But at the end of the day, the more we get drawn into that and the more we obsess over that and the more we fixate over that, you're not getting better as a bodybuilder.
No, and it's the end goal, isn't it?
And it doesn't lead you to the end goal.
No, literally. So there you have it, guys. That's the plan now. So you've seen obviously what Cal thinks we should do and what we're going to implement over the next 12 months. Obviously, this, just because prep's ended doesn't mean the YouTube's going to finish. Obviously, this is going to be a new improvement phase, and obviously I'm going to show you guys how and what I'm going to do to put this new muscle on and obviously get to the level we need to be at. So thank you again for all the support. Really appreciate it. Stay tuned because obviously there's going to be more and more videos every single week. Thank you.